Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Lucha Underground Re-Watch Season 2. This is the second season of Lucha Underground, and because of that, this is also the second season of Lucha Re-Watch. And this will be a 13-week series because Lucha Underground Season 2 was 26 episodes. We will be covering 2 episodes per week. I just wanted to thank everybody for supporting TWitWoW, supporting Lucha Underground. Lucha Underground is finally on Netflix, or at least it will be this time next week. The biggest reason that we decided to do Lucha Re-Watch in the first place when we did for Season 1 was because of the hashtag Netflix needs Lucha, trying to get Lucha Underground on Netflix. And now here we are, nearly a year and a half later, and Lucha Underground has finally landed on Netflix, or at least it will be on Wednesday, March 15th, like I said, this time next week. So here we are, Season 2, Lucha Re-Watch. We are hoping that not only everybody that has followed us through our entire, Lucha Underground viewing experience will enjoy this series, but we're also hoping that some newer viewers will come in because Lucha Underground is going to be exposed to an entirely new group of people by being on Netflix, guys. So if you are here from Netflix, if you are watching through Lucha Underground on Netflix, we have links to playlists in our description right now to every single one of our Lucha Underground Season 1 reviews and every single one of our episodes of Lucha Underground Re-Watch from Season 1. So go watch Lucha Underground Season 1. If you want, you can kind of take your time and kind of baby step your way through it. Watch an episode of Lucha Underground Season 1, then come back and watch our review of it, and then watch another episode, and then come back and watch our review of that. Or if you want to just binge, which I know Netflix users love to do, and quite frankly, I am right there with you, watch all of Lucha Underground Season 1, and then come back and watch all 10 of our episodes of Lucha Re-Watch Season 1. And when you get through Season 1, then come back and enjoy Lucha Re-Watch Season 2. This is the hypest thing we've done in a really long time, and now I'm going to pass it on over to my partner in commentary. John, are you ready?
I'm ready, partner, just to get a few of my remarks, not to be redundant about what you just said, because you articulated it beautifully. I am so excited for this particular season of Lucha Re-Watch because it's so distinct from the first season that we did, Season 1 of Lucha Re-Watch, because as you said, and I'll put it my own way, everything we know is about to change because in 1 week's time, Lucha Underground will hit Netflix. And I honestly believe that is going to be a revolution to the promotion and a revelation to so many people that do not yet know the greatness of Lucha Underground, which we've come together to celebrate today. I'm very intrigued how this Netflix deal is going to change the game for Lucha Underground, and that's why I love that we're doing it because, this Lucha Rewatch will serve as a resource for people, that may miss all the nooks and crannies or may really enjoy all the analysis, because if this show doesn't get you thinking, to me, nothing will. And that hasn't changed. Being back in the saddle with you, watching these first 2 episodes for our inaugural episode of Lucha Re-Watch Season 2, it just reminded me how amazing this show is. And we really, in hindsight, haven't even been away from it that long. But given that we've been slogging through Raws and everything lately on the road to WrestleMania, it's nice to know how the other half lives. You know what I mean? So I'm ready to dig into this, man.
Absolutely. I mean, from a personal standpoint, I like to hang out in NFL draft circles. There's a Discord that I go to where we get to talk NFL draft all the time. And there have already been 2 instances where Lucha Underground has come up, and I've mentioned that, yes, it will be on Netflix on March 15th. And both people that were a part of that conversation said that they would be checking it out when it hits Netflix. And they're also both people who are no longer wrestling fans who used to watch wrestling back when it was like Attitude, Ruthless Aggression era for WWF, WWE, but don't watch it anymore. So hopefully, not only is Lucha Underground going to be exposed to a massive wide audience, but hopefully a massive wide audience that used to like wrestling and fell out of love with it because maybe like their favorite stars left, or maybe they don't like PG, or maybe, you know, they like hardcore wrestling, then they can't get that anymore. Maybe they come back through the form of Lucha Underground.
Yeah, I've been thinking the same, dude. I was even thinking, like, when Lucha Underground hits Netflix, you know, I'd share it on Facebook and this and that, and say to people, hey, if you used to love this but you don't anymore, try this. Because, I mean, yes, it has wrestling, but I honestly feel like wrestling is only like a fraction of what Lucha Underground does, because the
Lucha
narrative, I've always said
Underground
this.
is a comic book movie in the form of a TV show where the fights are in a wrestling ring.
Yeah. Absolutely. Again, couldn't have articulated it better. And that's just it. Like, if you want to sink your teeth into something, you know, a real narrative with teeth and bite, like, Lucha Underground is the show for you. It's an experience. And I feel like very early on, that's how I described Lucha Underground. It's an experience. Like, going to Disney World or going to this fancy restaurant. Like, it's like nothing you've ever seen in the context of pro wrestling. And really, to certain degrees, I'd say in the context of television, just in general. So I'm really excited to be doing this. I hope we can expose a lot of new minds to this. I know Netflix certainly will. And guys, if you notice, just want to emphasize one last time here in the description, everything we've done up to this point, Lucha Re-Watch for season 1 reviews, season 2 reviews, season 2 live reactions, everything. It's all in the description. So if you want to get an education in Lucha Underground, ain't going to find two better teachers than us. So, partner,
Absolutely.
I'm ready to get into this, man.
And hell, this is called Lucha Re-Watch, but this is the third time that we will have seen these episodes. And in the case of the first episode, this is probably my like fifth or sixth time, because I loved episode 1 of season 2 so much, and I couldn't wait for episode 2 to hit, to the point that I rewatched episode 1 at least 2 more times, even after you and I rewatched it together the same night it aired.
Yeah, that's dedication. I know you and I watch these episodes, you know, regularly. Again, like you said, this will be our third
Well, and
viewing
that's the thing,
together.
too. Like, how many other wrestling shows exist that ever even warrant a single rewatch, much less multiple rewatches? Like, I don't think that there's a wrestling anything that exists that you want to watch multiple times, unless it's just like an individual match that's above and beyond anything you've ever seen before.
And I was just getting ready to emphasize that point. Notice the wording that you had there. You said wrestling show, not wrestling match. And as far as the wrestling show, yeah, Lucha Underground is the only one that I know with the replayability that it has on a regular basis.
Yeah,
so it's
exactly.
not even like it's like this stellar pay-per-view, like, oh my God, no, this is weekly episodic programming.
Yeah. And like every
can't
Wednesday night during Lucha Underground season, John and I will live react to the show, and then we will review the show, and then we'll do NXT stuff, because we review both NXT and Lucha Underground on Wednesday nights. And then after we're done reviewing NXT, we will find Lucha Underground online and rewatch the episode that aired that night. But again, we won't be live reacting to it, so we'll be able to pay more attention to the details. So if you want the most detailed, in-depth, nuance-driven Lucha Underground analysis and reviews, this is where you're going to get it.
Absolutely.
And now, 8 months in the making, because we originally were planning on doing this immediately after season 2 finished airing, but season 3's episode 1 started literally 6 weeks after the end of season 2. 8 months in the making, Lucha Re-Watch season 2. Let's get into this, brother.
All right, how do we open this baby up?
We open this baby up in the Yusef Floro Clinic, whatever the hell that means, wherever the hell that is, in the psychotic break division with none other than Vampiro. And if you guys remember, one of the big images at the end of season 1 was in Ultima Lucha, Vampiro revealing that he was Pentagon Jr.'s master. And then, after everything else had happened, we heard Vampiro tell Pentagon Jr., we're going to go to a much darker place.
Yes. Oh, my God. This opening cinematic. See, this right here alone, you could detach it from everything else, you know, pretty much the remainder of this episode and then all of episode 2, which we'll be covering in a little bit. And already this shows why Lucha Underground is one of the best things out there. And, you know, it does tick me off when you hear about promotions like Impact getting credit for doing stuff like this with the Broken Hardys gimmick, even though now they're gone, because this is why Lucha Underground were the Trailblazers. You know, this cinematic was so good. I mean, what did you think about this? 'Cause I remember you loving this the first time we saw it.
Honestly, this opening scene for Lucha Underground Season 2, Episode 1 might be the best non-wrestling scene in the history of this promotion. It is absolutely incredible. It feels like a movie. It feels like something you'd see in like an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. if we're talking TV shows. It's so cinematic. It's so intense. And, you know, we get the little thing at the bottom of the screen that says 181 days without incident. And then we get the little clock that says that it's, you know, 3:03 whatever p.m. And then we hear that it's graduation day, but it depends on an evaluation. And Vampiro says, "Oh no, I feel fine." And the doctor who's standing or sitting across the table from him says, "Oh, have you had any nightmares?" And then we see in Vampiro's mind, this is all kind of interwoven with him having flashbacks to Ultima Lucha, being put through a flaming table, being, you know, thrown through light tubes, all this stuff. And then he's just like, no nightmares. And then any hallucinations? No. Violent thoughts? No. And again, all while these flashbacks are being shown. And then Vampiro says the violent thoughts are all gone. And the doctor says, well, this is aripiprazole. It's a very powerful antipsychotic, and you need to take 2 a day. And John, I don't know if you caught this, but the aripiprazole medicine, like the bottle that he was going to give Vampiro, if I remember correctly, it was 150 milligrams or micrograms. It might have been micrograms, but it was 150.
Yeah, it was a strong freaking dosage.
Well, yeah, because the traditional dosage is 10, 15, or 20. And this dude is going to end up taking 300 a day.
Yeah. So you figure even if you do the maximum of 20, that's like, what, 15 times
Yeah.
the amount? Like, that's crazy. That is crazy.
I mean, the good news is I'm pretty sure Vamp doesn't ever actually take the meds, but they do get prescribed to him, and I'm pretty sure if he would have taken them, he would have become a literal zombie.
And, you know, I got to say something, too, partner. And, again, you guys are going to be hearing a lot of this from me. I'm just going to speak for myself here, making parallels between how Lucha Underground uses certain talents to how WWE and mainly Raw, because that's where my biggest bone is, uses some of their talents. Like, you look at a guy like Vampiro, who is older, isn't anywhere near like a full-time guy. They use him so brilliantly. Like, he's one of the most compelling characters in this universe. And yet look how WWE has been using people like Mick Foley or Goldberg. And there is potential there. That's what's so maddening. And they never use it. And yet you got a guy like Vampiro. And you remember, Ashton, in season 1, how much I was cringing because I'm like, oh no, they're going to let him compete. What are they doing? Like, I remember being so apprehensive about it. And we go from that and a cinematic like this, and I'm like, he's amazing because they know how to use him. And this cinematic is no different. And I love his acting in this, where he's just calmly answering, yeah, I can do that. All the while, you can see, like, the internal, like, psychic turmoil, you know, his psychological states, like thinking back to Ultima Lucha and the violence with Pentagon. Like, he did so well here, and I just really wanted to commend that because I don't really think I emphasized that point enough during formal reviews and live reactions. Like, the way Lucha Underground knows how to use talent like Vampiro and know where he can contribute and be strong is just something I marvel at. It's so good.
Yeah, it is. It is really great that they can have a commentator be involved in storylines and even in a match occasionally, and yet they don't allow that role, that character, to overstep his boundaries, and they don't go overboard with it. They know just how much to use to keep it compelling and to even, I would argue, add a more interesting element to his commentary when he's on commentary, because like the pills made him loopy all season if he took them, and if not, he's just a crazy person.
Yeah, dude, I love it. It's like, because when you play with that kind of stuff, like, oh, let's make a commentator more than a commentator. I've always looked at it as like walking a tightrope, and where
Yeah.
everybody else I feel like has kind of fallen off, Lucha Underground, their steps are so seamless and so perfect because, again, I was ready to hate it. I'm like, man, I've been down this road before. I know how this ends. And not only does he have an amazing freaking match with Pentagon, so much so that for a lot of people it was their match of the year. But as a character, he just continues to develop. And again, this scene like this, where even the therapist is like, okay, well, you're almost ready to go, but you gotta promise me, that you're gonna stay on your meds, and that no violent, outbursts are gonna occur. And then you see the scene where he's just like,
well, he Vampiro promised to avoid the people and places that trigger his violence. So basically,
yes, yeah.
You have to avoid Pentagon in the temple, which obviously isn't going to happen. So Vampiro has an internal freak out, and like you were saying, he beats the shit out of the doctor and all the extra guys that come into the room trying to stop him, and then he bites the doctor's neck.
Which was amazing. And then, yeah, when he comes up with like the blood-stained teeth and mouth, the ticker goes 0 days without incident. So, it resets. But then we realize that's all in his head. And guys, again, just to stay on top of things, because like we said, you're not going to get a better resource than us. I have to plug the comics here, particularly the Pentagon and Vampiro issue, because I feel like that's a great compliment to this cinematic and really a lot of what Vampiro and Pentagon do this season. Yeah, I mean, because that issue was great, and you see Vampiro, like, yeah, it was all in his head, and he says, yeah, I can do that, and he goes out, and like you said earlier to start, like, he meets up with Matt Stryker, and I love the image when they're in the car, and Matt tells him, like, oh, well, we got the invitation back, but it's a much darker place, and Vampiro looks at his meds. He looks at the bottle. He's probably thinking to himself, man, I ain't taking this. And they drive off.
Did you see the name of the doctor on the bottle, by the way?
No, I didn't catch it. What was it?
Dr. Richard Johnson.
Richard Johnson. Okay, what does that mean? What significance does that hold?
Well, who's the lead writer of Lucha Underground, John?
Oh God. No, not Eric Van Wagenen, no. Roach, not DeJoseph.
Yeah.
DeJoseph, right?
Yeah. So, who was Chris DeJoseph when he was in WWE?
Oh, Big Dick Johnson.
And Richard Johnson.
Yeah, Richard is like, more formal name, nickname being Dick. Oh my God, wow.
So okay. That's a thing.
Yeah, that's I love the little Easter eggs they put in there. That's so good.
Oh God, I love this promotion.
So good.
All right. So yeah, after the pill bottle thing, we come back to the temple and we see Katrina in Dario Cueto's office, and we also see on the door it says proprietor Katrina. So she's the new proprietor. And she says, "Oh, I'm surprised that you had the guts or the balls, I don't remember what the word was, to show up in this temple. And it's Fenix in the freaking Cueto's office, which is now Katrina's office, and he wants Mil Muertes." And she's just like, "Oh, I bet you do. And as the Gift of the Gods champion, you have all the right in the world to go after Mil. But as the proprietor, I have all the right in the world to make you wait a week. And in the meantime, you're going to have to defend that Gift of the Gods championship against a man who's been hunting you for a long time now. Q King Cuerno, Q WTF, Q Fenix is screwed."
Yeah, I love this dynamic, man. Like, I know I'm pretty meh on Fenix, just generally speaking, because he's a great in-ring worker, but, like, character doesn't really connect with me like so many others in the temple do. But the best thing he has going to me is the relationship with Katrina. And why I love it is it's kind of a love story in a way, because we know that Fenix is her true love because he embodies life and she's death and all that stuff, which we'll get deeper into as the season progresses. But I love that, like, she doesn't hold back with him. Like, yeah, even though there's that love there, she has priorities and she has interests that come before him. And she's just like, yeah, I'm going to make you wait. And you're facing King Cuerno. It's like, oh, God damn. Because, Fenix knows I can beat Mil Muertes, and she knows it too. And he says straight up when he first enters her office, I'm here for Mil, and I'm here for his championship. So, great interplay between these two. I love this relationship. And, yeah, we know that we're getting Fenix versus King Cuerno on this episode, which we'll be talking about here in a few moments.
Yeah, and then we kind of shoot back to the temple itself. Or I guess I shouldn't say back, because this is the first time we actually go inside the temple. And we see that Mil is in the temple up where the band used to be in a throne surrounded by skulls. So the throne of death.
Yeah, first of all, cool as fuck. Second of all, again, gotta plug the comics. If you're curious how that throne came to be, comics have a great answer to that.
Well, the reason I'm not bringing up the comics yet is because the first comic came out in between episodes 1 and 2, and that was the Rey Mysterio one that was kind of like centric on him. But the one that you're talking about, I believe, was the second or third comic, and that comes out either in between episodes 3 and 4 or 5 and 6.
Right.
So,
but yeah, great throne, great imagery. Really, it's like breathtaking just seeing him up there like a god, staring down at everybody. It's so freaking cool.
Do we think Mil Muertes is a god?
He could be anytime he damn well pleases. I know that for sure. As far as him actually being a god, I don't even know anything anymore when it comes to Lucha mythology, because anything can happen, my man. All
right, so the first thing that we kind of get into as far as actual like interaction is Matt Striker. He introduces himself, introduces Vampiro, and then Vampiro has a great line. He says that Mil Muertes has ascended Dark Olympus. I love that.
That was amazing. Again, complements the imagery perfectly that we're witnessing. Love that too.
Yeah. And then we kick it over to Melissa Santos, and we are underway with the first match of the evening. And our first match of Season 2 of Lucha Underground is a Gift of the Gods championship match, because we get King Cuerno versus Fenix right off the bat.
What'd you think about this match?
This match was actually better than I remember. Not to say that I remember it poorly, but I just didn't remember it. And now that we actually watched it again, this was a lot of fun. I absolutely adore King Cuerno, and I think that the absence of Cuerno in Season 3, and we're not going to spoil why he hasn't been around. For all you know, maybe it's visa issues. Who cares? But him not being around in Season 3 so far has been really, it's almost made me forget how good he is. And now we're coming back to Season 2, and right here we get a Cuerno match, and it just reminds me, and it all kind of comes flowing back, how incredible this performer is. He is awesome.
Dude, I echo your sentiments wholeheartedly. I think his absence, like you said, and like you, I won't spoil it. I actually forgot how well he works and how crisp and perfect his offense is. And man, he is just so good. I mean, kudos to you, because in Season 1, you were on the King Cuerno bandwagon like immediately. It took me a while to get my ticket, but I'm happy to be a part of it, because you want to talk about mat technicians and people who work that kind of style. He is just second to none to me. His arrow from the depths of hell, that tope suicida he does, still to me the best in the business, without question. So perfect the way it comes off. And again, like, where I will give Fenix his due, his in-ring work is just great. How he can balance on the ropes, the agility, the athleticism. So these two complemented each other so well in this first bout. I mean, you could put this on any pay-per-view in any promotion anywhere, and it'd be the perfect opener. And yet this just par for the course for Lucha Underground. This is the stuff you should always anticipate, and Cuerno does get the win with, what's the technical name of the maneuver? Because he
ended up, he went for the thrill of a hunt, which was like the almost like the Death Valley driver, but going forward. I don't remember what the technical name for that is, but he didn't even get the win off that. Like that move had always gotten a 3 count prior to this match against whoever he used it against. And then Fenix kicks out of it, and you could even see it frustrated Cuerno. But Cuerno gets innovative up in this bitch, and he invents a new finisher, which we grew to know as the Thrill of the Kill.
Thrill of the Kill. God, Cuerno is so good. Because was it this season, or did he develop it in season 1? Because I know he also gets a submission down the line. Like, this guy is constantly reinventing his game. I love it. It's so good.
Honestly, I don't even remember King Cuerno having a submission, so I might rediscover some things just by watching season 2.
I'm right there with you, man. Ain't nothing wrong with that. But yeah, Cuerno, his in-ring game. I pity anybody that thinks they can rival him because he's just so polished and so good. But
yeah,
the
Thrill of the Kill, basically a cradle tombstone pile driver, really similar to Trent's finisher, Crunchy.
Yes,
and he ends up picking up the win with that move. And we have a new Gift of the Gods champion. Literally the first match back from what was at the time like a 6-month break. Because you got to remember the last episode was August 5th, 2015. And then the first episode back was January 27th, 2016. So you're talking about from August to January. That's I believe a 5-month break, maybe closer to it's closer to 6 because it was early August to late January, but still like that long of a break. And then the first episode back, we open with that amazing cinematic with Vampiro in the Yosef Floral Clinic. We find out Katrina's the new proprietor. We see Mill's Throne of Death. We get a great match and a title change all within the first 20 minutes.
I love that. I love that sense of urgency from Lucha Underground. Like, we've been gone for several months. Let's come back with a bang, and boy, do they ever, because all of these things coming together remind you, oh, yeah, Lucha Underground means business. It's amazing. This is a great opening match. I love that we had a title change here because to me it made sense at the time because remember to end season 1, we had Cuerno stalking Fenix. So, the hunter finally got his prey cornered. The prey tried to fight, but it wasn't enough. Cuerno, new Gift of the Gods champion. Great stuff.
Awesome, yeah. So then we kind of see pulling up to the temple in motorcycles the Unlikely Trio, the team of Ivelisse, Son of Havoc, and Angelico, and we call them the Unlikely Trio because that's the most common name used by commentary to refer to these three. And they pull up and they kind of do like a pose, and then I believe in the original airing we went to commercial, and when we came back from commercial, they were walking into the temple and they are confronted by Katrina, who tells them, Mill wants you guys to fight each other. And they're just like, poof, poof, poof. We spent a year trying to get our shit together. What do you think we're going to do? No. And then she's just like, oh, but whoever wins gets to fight Mill for the title. And they're just like, screw you guys, I'm in.
Yeah. I love it too. And you know what, though? That just shows the prestige and the value of the Lucha Underground Championship. So I love that. I love that Katrina's the one to do it because, of course, that begins sowing the seeds of Katrina and Ivelisse, which would really flourish down the line. And really started.
The Katrina Ivelisse stuff, you could even argue that started at Ultima Lucha when Katrina knocked Ivelisse out to cost this trio the championships for the Disciples of Death.
And I was getting ready to make that point, yeah, because I was even going to say, actually, you could say that it started even earlier, to your point, and it just continues here. And so all three of them are in because they realize, well, look, we may be getting along, but how many chances do you get at the Lucha Underground Championship? So, they start to walk off, and then Ivelisse stops, turns around and says, oh, and when I win the title, then I'm coming after you. So, again, really building that up. These two have quite a deep history. That's what makes me so excited for Ultima Lucha Trace for their matchup. And yeah, the build like this is exactly why. This is a great cinematic.
Absolutely. So then we go back to the inside of the temple, and Katrina calls Melissa Santos, the ring announcer, and whispers in her ear the information that, the Unlikely Trio are about to have a triple threat, and the winner is the number 1 contender. So then before we actually get to the match itself, obviously Melissa does introductions, but then we get a backstage segment with Katrina where she congratulates King Cuerno and reminds him of their deal. And Cuerno says, you have nothing to worry about, and neither does Mill. So this kind of reveals Cuerno has been after Fenix for obviously close to 6 months. Katrina made a deal with him where she'll give him a shot at Fenix as long as if he beats Fenix for the Gift of the Gods title, he doesn't cash it in on Mill.
Right, yes. And that deal wouldn't necessarily last, but we'll get to that in future episodes. But yeah, this is really kind of laying the groundwork for that. Very interesting here. And actually, considering what we'd get in the future, very interesting that this whole relationship, between Cuerno, Katrina, and Mill really all kind of started here. I find that quite fascinating, actually, on this rewatch.
Yeah.
So good stuff.
I mean, I want us to try not to spoil too much because, first of all, just kind of being loosey-goosey about spoilers, we might end up accidentally spoiling something from season 3, and that isn't available on Netflix. It's just going to be 1 and 2.
Right.
And people are going to want to watch season 3. So, again, don't want to be too loosey-goosey with spoilers. I would definitely encourage everybody to watch our Lucha Underground Season 2 reviews before you come to Lucha Re-Watch. But if you want to just go straight to Lucha Re-Watch, that's fine as well, which is why we're going to try to avoid spoilers. Because our Season 1 rewatch was spoilerific. We were talking about Ultima Lucha in episode 1 of Lucha Re-Watch. I don't want to do it that way this time. So we're just going to be rewatching the episodes and just talking about what we see. But I do agree with you. Interesting story with the whole Katrina Mill Cuerno thing. And I can't wait to talk more about that when we get around to it in this series. So Absolutely. And up next, we get our second match of the night, Son of Havoc versus Angelico versus Ivelisse, triple threat, #1 contendership match. And this was a lot of fun, too. And before we even talk about the match, we did get like an opening exchange where they were kind of testing each other and going for pinning combinations. And then Matt Stryker says, regarding the idea that these friends might be bitter enemies by the time this match is over, even salt looks like sugar. And then Vampiro, possibly high on medication, possibly under the influence of aripiprazole, says, you look like sugar.
Definitely one of the greatest lines that Lucha Underground commentary has uttered.
Right?
Man, Vampiro, you're wonderful.
He really is.
Yeah, this triple threat was so much fun. And again, I have to say, because Lucha Underground's been doing this since season 1, the intergender wrestling. And I gotta be honest, if you're like a crossover fan that maybe has only been doing like WWE and you want to give Lucha Underground a try, or maybe TNA and you're like, no, I want something different, like you'd probably look at this match, and I'm saying it because I probably would look at this match if I was in their shoes and say, oh, well, that's interesting that they have the woman in there, but she won't win. She'll probably get like the hope spots or whatever. She's not really as credible as the two guys, right? Nope. Ivelisse is the type of character that can stand on her own 2 feet with Angelico and Son of Havoc, and that's made quite clear very early on, because when they're all trying to do that kind of ring around the rosy kind of lock, all of them take part in a Greco-Roman knuckle lock. Angelico's kind of teasing her because he's got the height advantage. She's like, come on! And then she just kind of overhand chops him. And then Havoc's like, whoa, what was that? And she's like, well, fuck you too. And she slaps Havoc. So I love it, dude. I love that she kind of asserts herself early. And again, it's just Lucha Underground being like, we have a women's revolution, but we never talk about it. We just are about it every single week. And this match is just a further testament to that.
Yeah, and there was even a moment in this match where Angelico hit a huge knee on Ivelisse in the corner. He was aiming for Havoc, but Havoc got out of the way. He nails Ivelisse with his knee. And again, another golden line from commentary. Vampiro, so what do you guys think is on Ivelisse's mind? I mean, other than Angelico's kneecap.
Yeah. Man, Vampiro is so good, man. So good. So what did you think about this match on the whole?
I really enjoyed this match. It was a lot of fun. As far as the finish goes, Havoc was on the top rope setting up for his shooting star press, and then Ivelisse pulls his leg out, gets in the ring, on Angelico, picks up the win.
Yeah, Ivelisse gets it done. Trusty Magistral Cradle, which admittedly exponentially more credible to me than just a freaking roll-up. So I like that. I really like the cleverness of just stopping Havoc before he could hit the shooting star, because, yeah, that's really been built up as, like, he hits it, it's over. So yeah, great triple threat. Love that Ivelisse was kind of opportunistic there in the finish. Love that the crowd was so receptive to the win too, because she's staring at Mill. You could see a mixture of like excitement and maybe like slight intimidation, because how can you not be intimidated when you're looking at a man sitting upon a throne high up in this freaking temple? But the crowd is
Especially when
chanting
said man
baddest.
is like 265 pounds and built like a brick shit house.
Exactly. And yet the temple is chanting baddest bitch, baddest bitch. It's a great moment, and it's a great atmosphere. So really enjoyed this.
Definitely. And then before we get to our main event of the evening, we get another cinematic, which is the sort of Black Lotus stuff. Three roll up, and they're wondering if they're in the right place. And then Black Lotus shows up outside their window and asks them if they're lost. And they're just like, oh, yeah, we're looking for an underground fight club around here that's known as the Temple. And that's just kind of, they just kind of leave you with that. Just like, oh, well, I wonder what's going to happen next. But then we get back to the temple. So what do you think about these random dude bros, John? What do you think?
Oh God, they were so smug, and yeah, this was just hilarious. I love how Black Lotus is just deadpan. Like, oh guys, she doesn't know where it is. I mean, after all, she's a woman. I mean, they didn't say it, but it was heavily implied. Black Lotus is just like, come with me. God, she's so badass. Great stuff.
Yeah. So then we get to our actual main event, and there was a great moment here where we know Ivelisse versus Mill is about to happen. Mill comes down from his throne. He's in the ring, and then before the match starts, the Disciples of Death come out. They come in, they grab Angelico and Son of Havoc, kind of beat down those guys a little bit, just enough to incapacitate them so they can carry them out. And I don't know if you noticed, but Sinestro de la Muerte, who is the purple one, went in like he was going to attack Ivelisse, and then she swung at him. He ducked and then got down on the ground and just rolled out of the ring. Like he looked like he was going to do something to Ivelisse, but then he didn't, because they didn't have any intention of doing anything to Ivelisse in the first place. The entire goal was to even things up, so there was just Ivelisse left to face Mill by herself.
Right. And, I love that, because especially given things done on Raw lately with like, oh, Sasha Banks is coming out and doing this for Bayley and this and that. No, when Lucha Underground says it's an even playing field, it's an even playing field. So I love that, because, Ivelisse, she is the Technico. She shouldn't have anybody out there. And these two have a one-on-one match that I thought was excellent, because, it kind of relied to me on the David versus Goliath kind of narrative, but it wasn't like crowbarred or like hammered in like so forcefully. That's what I used to hate about Ray's like WWE run when he'd face guys like Mark Henry or Great Khali. It's like, oh, look at these odds. Like, no, we know the odds because it's Mil Muertes, but we also know that if anybody could beat him, it's somebody as tough and as resilient as Ivelisse, and they let that story be told. And they have, to me, in this match, one of the best hope spots I had seen in some time, the first time we watched this. Yep. And that's when Mill misses the spear on Katrina and Ivelisse gets the roll up. Because the whole temple's counting with her. And I'm like, oh, did she get it? No, she didn't get it. And let me tell you this, too. Because on the rewatch, I picked this up. As far as moves go, Mil Muertes' snap power slam, I used to think that Orton's was really good. Mill might have him beat. That was a thing of beauty. He just popped that shit off, picked Ivelisse right up, and then he hit the flatliner. I mean, just great. So, yeah, I thought these two worked really well together. What did you think about this match?
I loved this match. I actually really enjoyed this match, and I actually enjoyed it more this time watching it than I ever did in our original viewing or even our original rewatch the night that the original episode aired. Because, like, I remember feeling like this was like a squash match. Like, Ivelisse got a little bit of offense, and then Mill just kind of stopped toying around with her and killed her. That's not what this match was at all. Ivelisse did an awesome job of being a believable opponent for Mill. And if you just look at the size differential, you would never expect that to be the case. But when Ivelisse is just submissioning her ass off, trying to get Mill down for something, there was just a great like Ivelisse with the guillotine, and then transitions it eventually into a triangle, and then Mill tries to dip her over the rope, and she holds on and locks in an armbar over the rope. And then the referee tries to make her break it up, but Mill's just like, I don't need you. And then he slams Ivelisse into the freaking ropes. Like, that was all. And then the tornado DDT. And she got a 2 count off of that, too. And that was after the tornado DDT was when Katrina got in the ring. Ivelisse grabs her by the throat. So here's the thing, too. Like, we talk about, like, oh, well, yeah, Mill won. But they even managed to protect Ivelisse by having Katrina interfere in this match. Katrina got in the ring. Like, she was physically in the ring, distracting Ivelisse. Ivelisse grabbed her by the throat. Mill went for the spear on Ivelisse. She moved out of the way. Mill hits Katrina. Ivelisse goes for that roll-up that we were just talking about. The best near fall ever. And then Mill kind of, like, he realizes that he's been underestimating her this whole time. Did he hit her with a spear, or was it just the snap?
No, power slam flatliner. Yeah.
And then the flatliner, and that was it. The flatliner has been built up at this point that, it's a perfectly believable finisher, even on somebody like Ivelisse. I mean, he beat Puma with the top rope flatliner, but he was also at the top of his game at the time. So, this was a great match, and I'm honestly surprised at how much more I enjoyed it this time around than the first time around.
And I just want to make 2 more points before we move on to our post-match, which was so fucking good. First off, I love how much this one match accomplished because, to your point, they protected Ivelisse. They protected Ivelisse while furthering the narrative she had going with Katrina, from the first Ultima Lucha onward. And Mill has a great first title defense. And the second point I did want to make about Mill, because I know you have been a huge fan of Mil Muertes for a long time. Would it be safe to say that he's like your second favorite behind Puma? Because I know you're really big on Muertes. So just kind of want to figure out where he falls with you. He has to be your top 5, I would guess.
I'm going to say Muertes and Puma are more like a 1A, 1B situation.
That's fantastic. No, because that just shows, that I was on the nose, just not quite. So just to praise Mill, and I know I'm preaching to the choir here, I love, like, first of all, that armbar counter with the knees I thought was so clever. And then the bumps he took for Ivelisse, mainly that DDT. Like, that sell on the DDT. I'm like, man, Lucha Underground, and that's why I can't wait again for Netflix so that people can watch season 1 and 2, because people talk about the best wrestlers in the world, AJ Styles or Kenny Omega. Don't get me wrong, definitely worthy claimants to the throne. But let's talk about guys like Prince Puma and Mil Muertes, because Mil Muertes, to do the bumping that he does and to be the kind of monster that he is, he's just so good. I feel like it's been a while since we've been given a platform to really praise Mil Muertes, so I did not want to waste it. His work in this match, because, Ivelisse is great. I can praise her all day, every day. But Mill, being the champion, being the heel, being the monster, did his role to perfection. So big ups to Mil Muertes for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. He's great. And then after the match, because obviously, Ivelisse is laid out. She just ate a flatliner. Katrina gets in the ring. It looks like she's going to do a lick of death. But then she throws throws Ivelisse back to the mat and points at Mill and says out loud again as she points back to Ivelisse. So clearly wants him to hit another flatliner on Ivelisse.
Yes. However, that's not going to happen because who emerges?
My boy Puma.
Your boy Puma, that's right. He saves Ivelisse. I believe he super kicked Mill in the face, and that's how he was able to create the distance to get Ivelisse out there.
It was actually really cool because, like, there was a moment on this past episode of Raw where Cesaro was, like, holding Enzo Amore, and then Sheamus kicked Enzo Amore over Cesaro's shoulder. That's kind of what Puma did here. Mill had Ivelisse set up for the flatliner. Puma kicked Mill's face over Ivelisse's shoulder, and that forced Mill to release Ivelisse, slides out of the ring, pulls her out of the ring, both of them to safety because the ropes are an impenetrable barrier, obviously. Puma just kind of does like a stare down with Mill at this point. And this was a great moment for Puma.
Completely agree with you. But Puma wasn't the only one that would get a piece, because up from behind, much to the crowd's great delight, they popped big for this, Pentagon Jr. is standing behind Mil Muertes, does a backstabber, gets Mil in position to break the arm, and I could see out of the corner of my eye that Katrina, I think, was like screaming, Mil! Like she didn't want the arm broken, like she was freaking out. And Pentagon Jr. breaks Mil Muertes' arm. I'd still say one of, if not the defining moment of season 2. This was just such a great visual. The tempo was into it, and Pentagon just continuing his momentum from beating Vampiro at the first Ultima Lucha. This was fantastic.
Definitely, man. Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, this was a really great moment. Puma had a nice moment, but then Pentagon kind of stole all that glory, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Stole that thunder, something fierce.
You saved the girl. Here, I'm gonna break the villain's arm.
Exactly. Love it, dude. So freaking good.
Because the only thing more somber and like down to earth and like making you realize that he's human after all than a dead Mil Muertes is a crippled Mil Muertes.
Exactly. Couldn't have said it better, my man.
So you'd think that would be the end of the episode, but this is Lucha Underground, and they will occasionally give us post-credit scenes, which is amazing. And for this post-credit scene, we get the 3 Dude Bros and Black Lotus again. And they're talking to Dario Cueto, who they kind of roll up to Cueto and his new temple. And they tell him, hey, man, we love violence. And then they're just like, but hey, why's the chick here? And then she pretty much breaks his nose. And then Cueto's just like, hey, guys, it's $20 each to enter. And they all pay up. And then Cueto uses the key around his neck to unlock the door. And then as the last guy's walking into the temple, he's just like, oh, hey, who's fighting tonight? You are.
Yep. What a bunch of dumbasses. I reveled. I bathed in the afterglow of their demise. This was... why is the chick here? Why doesn't she have a plate with sandwiches or something? Like, just the sexism to me made me say, but then Black Lotus shut him down, like you said, broke that nose, and then they go in, and the screams. Yep. What a symphony. Yep. I mean, just fantastic. I mean, that is going to sustain me for the next good little bit. You are. Lucha Underground does that so well, man. Like, so good. Yeah, these guys were helpless. It was amazing. Love this, and that's how we punctuate episode 1.
And let's get right into episode 2, which we open with a recap of episode 1. You know, the whole it's a much darker place. Recap of Ultima Lucha. We get to see some highlights from Cage Mack, Mundo Patron, Vampiro Pentagon, and of course Puma Muertes, because the Age of Death began on that show. We also get to see Black Lotus killing El Dragon Azteca, and a little bit of a recap from episode 1 with the Dude Bros also being murdered. So then we actually get to the temple, and the first thing we see is Prince Puma doing curls because he's ripped, and this is how he got that way. But then Pentagon shows up and says, oh, hey, man, thank you for helping me to please my master last week. But tonight, we're a team. But you got to know, after we beat the Disciples of Death, you're next.
I loved it. I loved Pentagon just being sinister and being like, oh, hey, Puma, thanks for doing everything you did, but it's still all about me. And I'm going to break your arm. I'm going to get these sacrifices. But hey, I know Puma's your boy, and I love his workout regimen. Everybody else ain't shit. What did you think about this cinematic? And also about Pentagon's evil laugh, which I know you were quite fond of the first time we heard it.
Yeah, I mean, Pentagon's evil laugh is on point. I love that, like, this cinematic tells you a lot about the Pentagon Jr. character, because it's almost like he believes that he is, like, the main character of a story. Like, he is just like, oh, thank you, Puma, for helping me do the thing that I wanted to do. You were such a useful NPC in my quest. But next, I'm going to break your arm because that's what I do, and I'm the good guy.
Yeah, that was so good. I just love that he's like, yeah, you know, you're going to help me, and then you're going to help me even more when I break your arm.
Like literally, he sees Prince Puma as an NPC.
Yeah, it's so good. And then the fight sequence these two have. What did you think about this?
Oh man, this was again one of the best fight cinematics that we've seen in Lucha Underground. You've got, I mean, Puma throws the kick and Pentagon grabs it, and Puma with the growl, literally a big cat sounding growl, and then he does like the backflip toe kick to the chin of Pentagon, and then backs him up against, I guess, the bleachers. Is that what that was? Bleachers, but whatever it was. Like, yeah, this was awesome. Like the visuals and the action are just so on point. I love it.
Absolutely, man. This was so good. I love how they do fight scenes like in cinematic form. Because I believe the first one we got was what was it? Mack versus Cage, right? In season 1. Yeah, that was so good. And I feel like this, I'd say I still prefer the one with Mack and Cage because that was like more extended and more brutal. But this just had more of an artistry to it. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, like Matt Cage felt more like it could have been something you would see on a wrestling program. This felt like something you would see in a movie.
I agree with that assessment wholeheartedly. Anything else you want to say about it?
Next up, we had our first match of the night, Johnny Mundo versus Killshot.
Yeah, you got to say my boy earlier about Puma. Now I get to say my boy about Mundo. God, he's so good. I miss him so much.
Your boy? Now. I thought he was more than that. I thought you'd be like my everything.
Yeah, my God. Yeah, he's amazing. I miss watching him on Lucha Underground currently, but I know he'll be back. But in the meantime, this match, great continuation of his heel work, at Ultima Lucha, where he beat Alberto Del Bitchbag because he can't hang with quality workers. That's right. I said it. Do something about it. This match with Killshot I thought was fantastic. I mean, Killshot, he's just a quality performer, too. His in-ring work is impeccable.
Dude, Killshot hit a Fosbury flop in this match. Do you know how athletic you have to be able to do that?
No, it's insanity. It's utter insanity. And yet I love Mundo's heel work. Because here's the thing. Like, Mundo even... Yeah.
I mean, I want to give Mundo credit, too. The spear that he hit on the outside of the ring was awesome.
Yes. And I love it because, like, I remember Mundo said in an interview a while back, I think it was actually initially after his turn, so still in season 1, and he said, I love being heel, and, he was frank about it, and I admire him for that. He said, look, I'm getting older, and, like, even though I know that I can still do the quickness, and, like, I'm not ancient or anything, it's nice to know that being heel, I can work that slower style and work with guys like this and not feel like I have to keep up also as a babyface. And, I look at this match with Killshot, who is very quick, who has that agility, and I get exactly what he means because a heel Mundo, I think, is a great compliment to that. And can I just say, too, and yes, I am very biased, obviously, Mundo has some of the most creative ways to low blow somebody I've ever seen. Like, oh, let me just lift you up in the air, and when you come back down, I'm going to kick you in the nuts. Like, so good. I love this match. This was great. And, yeah, like I said, Mundo got a very clever low blow here, then does a flying chuck, and then does an end of the world, which I swear he's had more of a success rate of accurately hitting that maneuver in Lucha Underground than he ever has in WWE, because that end of the world was on point. He got full body-on-body contact, and with that, he gets the 3 count. Great match here.
He gets the 3 count, but he's not done because then he cuts a promo on the champ, Mil Muertes. And I loved his line here because, as we know from season 1, when he was a little boy, Mil Muertes survived a pretty devastating earthquake that killed pretty much his entire city. Not even just his parents, not even just his family, not even just his block. Literally the whole freaking city that he was in, or town, or village, whatever the hell you want to call it. And Mundo goes, that little earthquake that shook you up when you were a boy, that ain't nothing compared to what the end of the world is going to feel like.
Yeah, I love it. Put that whining little bitch bag in his place. Oh, my parents. Oh, they're dead. Shut up.
What are you complaining about? You grew up with Katrina.
Exactly. You have no right to complain. You're a bitch. So, yeah, I love Mundo putting Muertes in his rightful place, and that was beneath him like everybody else in the temple. And speaking of the scourge of the earth, Cage interrupts, because that's what we needed when we're bathing in the magnificence of Mundo. And then Cage,
you gotta admit though, Cage had some great lines here too, because he starts off with, "I'm 100% unlike the little champion here who sits on his throne. I won't just break your arm, I'll break you in half, boy." And then of course he starts to go into the, "I'm not a man, I'm a
machine," and Mundo cuts him off. "You're a machine! You're a machine, yay! We've heard it all before. You're not even in my league." And then
I love how much more you remember Mundo's lines than everyone else's.
Because he's the only one that matters. And then Cage is like...
But then Cage is like, "Last time we met, I kicked your ass. And if you want to go, we can do it right here, right now."
Yeah, which the only reason he beat Mundo, Cage was a Rudo at the time, Mundo was a Technico, he wore his ankle out with a steel chair, allowing him an easier time to hit Weapon X. Funny the things we forget. Get better programming, you hack. God. So then Mundo concedes the ring because he realizes, wait a minute, he's worthless. And, decides to pick his battles. And then Cage is like taunting Muertes. And then Mundo strategically, I don't know where the word cowardice comes in, tries to get the jump on Cage. However, it's unsuccessful because I guess being a meathead has its advantages. Cage goes to military press Mundo, and Mundo kind of slides out. However, that was preceded by, I'll confess, a very impressive shoulder block, made all the more impressive by Mundo's brilliant selling. Everything comes back to Mundo. It means world. It makes sense. What did you think about all this?
Everything is connected.
Exactly.
Yeah, this was cool. I love that Mundo strategically left the ring and then strategically came back to try and get an upper hand on Cage. And I even appreciate that Cage was able to look strong despite the sneak attack.
Yeah, definitely. And I can't wait to talk about more about these two as we progress in the season. Of course, we're doing 2 episodes a week, so this will be our cap for week 1. But these two, yeah, it'll only get better for both of these guys, I'm sure. So unless you have anything else you want to say, we can move on.
Well, up next, we saw Marty the Moth Martinez, and he was taunting Sexy Star, who happened to be tied up in a chair at Marty's house.
What did you think about this cinematic?
Oh, my God. Honestly, I gotta tell you, in hindsight, I'm even angrier that we never found out what Marty and Mariposa did to Sexy Star during the break between seasons 1 and 2, because I feel like that whole story in real time is really close to over, if not completely over, and we still don't know what Marty and Mariposa did to Sexy Star that was so horrible.
Yeah. It's like I originally told you, because I remember us having a really big debate about this. It's very Hitchcockian, the terror, and I really quite liked it like that. But I can see what you mean about wanting more visuals too, though, because these guys are great.
I mean, you don't even need to give me visuals if you just let me know, like, what kind of abuse there was. Like, what happened? Was that, like, did they, like, I don't know, like, was there, like, was it physical abuse, mental, emotional? Was there anything sexual? Like, did they, like paint Sexy Star's face and treat her like a cloud or something? Like, I don't understand. I guess my imagination is either too wild or not wild enough to actually imagine specifically what happened.
Yeah, and I mean, that's understandable. Again, this is actually a pretty big debate between you and I, because I loved it. Because I used the term back at the time, Hitchcockian, because Hitchcock always believed there's no greater terror than the human imagination.
Okay.
And yeah.
Well, there's no greater terror than the human. Well, then I'm curious, John, what do you imagine happened during that break?
Oh, well, to me, they probably kept her bound up in a chair. Maybe they even teased her at times with hopes of escape, like an open door when they'd leave the Moth Mansion and just be like, oh, there it is. And, maybe just kind of closed it on her. Maybe they bound her up in a cocoon at regular intervals, which for her, that's like a confined space. So that's got to kind of breed in some claustrophobia or what have you, and then release her. And then they say, see, we keep doing this. You're going to blossom into a beautiful butterfly, our plaything. I could picture them doing a lot to her, and we did get a little taste of it here, to your point, showing Sexy Star the Dead Butterfly, and that was the beginning of some really great stuff here. And yeah, I love this. I love the Marty the Moth character. I've gone on record and said I think he's one of the best heels in wrestling right now, if not the best. And work like this is exactly why. He's amazing.
I mean, I guess I just don't understand why them tying her up would warrant her fear of Mariposa that we'll end up seeing later on in the season.
Yeah, and again, I think with Lucha Underground, and I do love it, I think it's just up for us to decide. And,
I know, but that's why I asked you what you imagine they did, and all you said was that they bound her up. Like, that's nothing.
Well, then again, maybe I'm not that sadomasochistic. Maybe somebody else could come up with better things, but maybe they burned her. Maybe they simulated drowning. You think about what torture is. These guys probably did everything. I mean, hell, Sexy, like you said, the whole thing with Mariposa, she probably was a big part of it, and Marty was more of an observer. You could probably hear his laugh in the background with some of the shit that Mariposa probably did. Maybe they just beat up Sexy regularly, made her bleed. You don't know. You don't know, but that's the thing. Like, it's conjecture, and it really is, like, how powerful is your imagination? How deep can it go into the depths of the darkness that is Moth? And I don't know. I like it. I stand by it. I thought it was great. And yeah, this cinematic I thought was wonderful.
All right. I'm not going to keep arguing just because we'll never get anywhere. So, yeah, Marty tells Sexy that it's almost time for her to spread her wings and return to the temple, but that she will not be going alone because his sister will be going with her.
Yes. So we do get that Mariposa tease. I think that's awesome. Great stuff.
And then, before we even get back to the temple, we get a PJ Black vignette. And this was also really well done. He said, "The wolf fears nothing." I can relate to that, but the thrill never lasts. It's never enough. I'm addicted to danger. That's why I put my body on the line in the ring. What is it I seek? What am I looking for? Not money or fame or recognition. I'm just looking for the next thrill. And from what I hear, Lucha Underground is the place to get it. I'm the Darewolf PJ Black, and I fear nothing.
Love this. Again, Lucha Underground is just king with the vignettes, the debut performers. I mean, I remember Cage's vignettes. You and I got hyped, and this was no different, especially given that PJ Black, formerly Justin Gabriel in WWE, we thought was so underappreciated, and this just seemed like just a new beginning for him. And I love the tone of this. And yeah, I love that line. I'm just seeking the next thrill. Perfectly defines the character. I enjoyed it. What do you think about this?
Yeah, man, this was a lot of fun. This was a great vignette. You see PJ beating the shit out of a bunch of anonymous masked luchadors in a hotel parking lot. So, yeah, he's a badass. And then I think, again, in the original airing, they went to commercial. And then when they got back, we got right into our second match of the night, which was the Mack versus PJ Black. So Mack versus Black, which is almost like the Machine versus the Mack, except not. PJ did a great job in this match. Though, honestly, all of the work that PJ has done recently, and I don't want to give too much away, but all of the work that he's been doing recently in Lucha Underground, I really appreciated his in-ring work in this match. It kind of reminded me just how freaking incredible he can be when he's allowed to kind of go all out and unleash everything that he has.
Oh, absolutely. Like you, I don't want to give too much away, but I mean, this was a solid debut here. The Mack is just one of those guys that you grow to love. Like, he's just so good in ring. He's got a great personality that I think shines through in the ring work. And commentary was great here because Vampiro was really pushing, no, we should just call him the Darewolf. It fits, Matt. It's better that way. And yeah, just great back and forth. Ultimately, though, Mack does win with the stunner. I like how he's kind of just the Black Stone Cold of Lucha Underground, taking the stunner, drinking the beer every now and again. It's a good fit. He gets the win with the stunner. Great debut match for PJ. But again, it continues a tradition established in Season 1. You don't always win in your debut, and I love that because I feel like that's kind of become a trope everywhere else. like, oh, we're just going to show all the good things about this guy. But Lucha Underground says, hey, it's never too early to struggle. So good stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. And PJ does lose this match, but I mean, it's still a really fun match. One of the highlights of the match was Mack hitting his Samoan drop kip up moonsault combo. No matter how many times he does that, it's amazing just because of how big he is and the fact that he's able to move that way. And then there was a moment where PJ hit a roundhouse kick and then a Blue Thunder Bomb on Mack. And Matt Stryker referred to the Blue Thunder Bomb as Black to the Future. So I didn't know that that was a thing, and I learned something today.
We all learned something today, because that definitely struck my ear as well, my friend. I'm like, wait, what? But yeah, good stuff, man. I can't complain.
And then,
cool.
yeah, Mack ends up winning with his stunner. So the Mack picks up a win, kind of makes up for the loss he took at Ultima Lucha when he got curb stomped into a cinder block. And
that was hilarious.
Yeah, so yeah, the Mack is kind of back up and moving. But after this match, we got a second vignette already for the night. This one, though, was for a female character by the name of Cobra Moon.
Oh, this vignette.
Would you like the transcript?
Yes, please.
She says, I've been called a lot of things in my life. Cold-blooded, sinful, evil, sexy, venomous. Truth is, I'm all these things, and together they make me deadly. And then we got text on the screen, Cobra Moon strikes next week.
This vignette, I remember when we first saw it that I loved it. I was very intrigued. I'm like, oh, who is this? And, oh, man, let's just say I really can't wait to continue this series because, yeah, Cobra Moon, that's another one, baby. Just a great, great addition to the temple.
I mean,
yeah,
from what I remember, Cobra Moon Season 2 really isn't all that interesting, and it's really Season 3 when her story picks up. So
yes.
People who are watching on Netflix are going to end up sleeping on Cobra Moon. They're not going to know how good she is or how interesting her character is until they obtain the ability to watch Lucha Underground Season 3, which I don't know when that'll be, or if they just want to seek it out on the internet. I'm sure there's plenty of episodes available to watch, and it is 100% worth it, because if you get through the first 2 seasons, you're going to be left wanting more, and Season 3 is honestly, I think, even better than Season 2. I don't know if it's better than Season 1, but I think Season 3 is an improvement over Season 2.
I would agree with that, and we'll probably get into why as we delve deeper into this series. But yeah, this vignette was really the beginning of Cobra Moon, and I loved it. I think she's great, and this vignette really communicated that. Because I remember even speculating, like, is she going to be kind of like a Catwoman type character where she's just like this really expert thief? Or like, what is she? Man, we find out, trust me. But yeah,
I'll tell you what she is. She's everything that she said she was. She's cold-blooded, sinful, evil, sexy, venomous. All those things are definitely adjectives that I would use to describe Cobra Moon.
Yes, completely agree. With that said, we can move on.
And our main event of the evening, match number 3, the Disciples of Death, accompanied to the ring by Katrina, versus the team of Pentagon Jr. and Prince Puma in a handicap match. And this match was really surrounded by questions regarding the chemistry between Puma and Pentagon.
Yes. And I thought they played up that element very well. Another element I thought they played up well, again, was the relationship between Vampiro and Pentagon. Because, Matt Stryker, kind of made a statement about that at the end of episode 1. Like, oh, the person that, that you're his mentor when he broke Muertes' arm. And Vampiro is just like, man, why'd you have to bring that up, man? I'm not supposed to think about that kind of stuff. I'm trying to get better, more or less. And here you are bringing that up. Like, not really angry with Matt, but definitely agitated. Yeah. And so I thought they did a great job of that. What did you think of this match, though, on the whole?
Man, this match was a lot of fun. This was high energy, and I love how brutal the Disciples were when they were able to isolate one of these guys. Like, there was a moment during this match when They were going for a pin on Puma. Pentagon breaks it up, and immediately all three of them just triple team Pentagon, kicking him, choking him with their feet, like pushing him out of the ring through the ropes. Like, man, they were just brutal. They just devastated Pentagon, and really the whole thing reeks of skepticism from Stryker, because he really is kind of under the impression that Vampiro is still kind of controlling Pentagon, and that Pentagon being in this match teaming with Puma might just lead to Pentagon breaking Puma's arm and taking him as a tribute for his master. And, you know, Pentagon and Puma do end up ultimately winning, but then Stryker's skepticism is basically fulfilled when Pentagon tries to break Puma's arm.
Yes. Puma, though, thankfully fights out of it. But I agree with you. I had a lot of fun with this match. I thought that ending where Puma hits the 630, but then Pentagon steals the tag and thereby steals the glory was just fantastic. I mean, hell, Pentagon pretty much did more or less exactly what he told Puma he was going to do, with the exception, of course, of breaking that arm, because, again, Puma did make the escape. But I just loved the tension in this match. I loved all the narrative threads at work. And just Lucha Underground's juggling from a narrative standpoint is just really a thing to marvel at, because they could balance so many stories at once and not miss a beat. And I feel like that was really exemplified in this match here.
Yeah, and to be fair, this was also the first time anybody had ever been kind of gotten their arm trapped and had Pentagon about to break their arm and managed to escape.
Why is that? Because Puma's a beast. So
damn straight.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
But that, even though that was our main event and that was our last match, it was not our last segment, because we get, as we will occasionally get, we got in episode 1 and here we got in episode 2, we got a post-credit scene. And this time it was Rey Mysterio, and you recognize that voice as soon as you hear it, teaching El Dragon Azteca Jr. about the mask that he is now going to be wearing. He says that it's been passed down in the family for centuries, and even asks El Dragon Azteca Jr. if he's ready for that power. Lets him know El Dragon Azteca was his mentor as well, and that he was actually supposed to inherit that mask, but he chose a different path. He says that it wasn't my destiny to go down that path to be El Dragon Azteca, but now it is yours. You must become El Dragon Azteca. And of course, to finish it off, he says, as for me, I'm pretty happy with the mask I chose. And then we get the face reveal. There's Rey Mysterio Jr. Big reveal. He's in Lucha Underground. And I believe this was actually one of those moments where, like, people made live reaction videos to this specific scene on YouTube.
Really? I was not aware of that. Like, I knew it was probably going to be popular because it's Rey freaking Mysterio, and Lucha Underground was able to nab him. Didn't know, though, that it was that popular. But, yeah, this was actually really cool. I've never been a Rey Mysterio mark by any means, but the way they kind of played it up with that reveal at the end, I thought was so cool. And already, yeah, just establishing that association with El Dragon Azteca, I loved it, man. I loved everything about this closing cinematic. And what a way to punctuate the second episode. Again, just really building on that momentum. Lucha Underground, I'll tell you, even though I would agree with you, you said earlier that you felt like season 3, or what we've seen of it so far, is better than season 2. I would concur with that. I feel like consistently throughout all 3 seasons, Lucha Underground just had a mastery of the hook, man. They knew how to get you to come back next week. So
definitely.
Good.
Yeah, they're great at that. They're great at storytelling. They're great at continuity. They're great at characters. They're pretty much great at everything that is the narrative side of pro wrestling.
Yes, which I would say is the most important part of pro wrestling. So if you've got that down to a science, everybody else better watch their back, man. And hell, that's why they got the Netflix deal. And yeah, in 1 week's time, you guys will be able to see all these scenes for yourselves if you haven't already. And again, like, you'll just be able to come here and hear us talk about it. And yeah, great first 2 episodes here.
Yeah. And hey, if you're binging and you're watching through everything, then it's probably not worth it to watch every single one of our reviews, because there are, I mean, between seasons 1 and 2, there are 65 of them, or 64 since we reviewed episodes 1 and 2 of season 1 in the same video. So there are 64 videos. But I think Lucha Re-Watch is still absolutely so it's must watch, because you go to season 1 Lucha Re-Watch, and if you've already seen all of season 1, there are some great little analysis there of us pointing out things that we didn't catch the first time around and just praising everything great that happened, and even, addressing some of the negatives, especially in the first 8 episodes. So yeah, Lucha Re-Watch season 1 is already completely done. We did that in 2015, in the fall of 2015. So definitely check that out once you've finished binging season 1 on Netflix. And then once you finish binging season 2, come back, check out Lucha Re-Watch season 2. And if you finish binging season 2 before we finish this series, then maybe you can join us some of these episodes on Wednesdays at 3 p.m. We will be live, and we were live today, and we will be talking Lucha right up until May 31st, which is the day that Lucha Underground Season 3, Episode 20 airs. It's the return of the GOAT.
Yes. Love it. So, yeah, guys, I mean, that was our first 2 episodes, first episode of Lucha Re-Watch Season 2. Ashley, have any closing remarks you want to make here, bud?
I just thoroughly enjoyed watching these 2 episodes with you, and I'm really glad that we made the decision to do Lucha Re-Watch Season 2. And I got to tell you, man, I'm looking forward to next week's episodes. But until then, later on tonight, guys, we will be reviewing NXT. That'll be at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, we will be reviewing WWE Degeneration X in your house. And then next Monday, the whole cycle starts over again with Raw Review, SmackDown Live Reactions, and then we're back to Lucha Re-Watch. It's going to be great.
Absolutely. All right, partner, I'll let you take us home.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have nothing left that I want to add to our commentary here, so all I want to ask you to do is to look in the description, like the video, leave a comment once it's been fully processed, subscribe for more wrestling content. We are primarily a Lucha Underground channel, although sadly they are on break now, which is why we're coming up with this content now, because we just love the show so much. We can't live more than a month or 2 without Lucha Underground, without wanting to talk about Lucha Underground with you guys. So here's Lucha Re-Watch, and this is going to be our filler Lucha Underground content in between seasons, well, in between the first and second half of season 3. We have our season 1 review playlist, our season 1 Lucha Re-Watch playlist, our season 2 review playlist, and our season 2 live reaction playlist, all available in the description, as well as links to our Patreon and Teespring if you're interested in supporting us or buying merchandise. We have all of our social media in the description, my Twitter, John's Twitter, our Facebook, and the official TWitWoW subreddit. All of this stuff you can find in the description of this video. Please make sure, click the show more button. It's all down there, I promise. And until later tonight for our NXT review, we're hoping that everybody stays tuned.